Hi, I'm Shema Lane, and welcome back to another Sketch to Scrapbook page. And this is my second layout that I'm using my January Best of Both Worlds kit. And you might have had a little look that I let Glitter Girl borrow 2 of the alphabets for one of her projects recently. So I've done 2 titles with the blue and the gold, but everything else I've just made that one layout that you've seen already. So today I'm working on a new sketch with 2 4x6 photos and 2 pattern papers in the background plus 1 strip of something to separate the 2 patterns. And I have my 2 4x6 photos are something a little bit different than the normal sort of thing that I put in my scrapbooks, but this is going in my Harry Potter album, which is all photos of the day we spent touring the Harry Potter film studio. And these I just thought were really, really interesting and sat and looked at them for ages. They're the architectural drawings for the Weasley's house in the Half-Blood Prince. So I know that's a little bit of a bizarre thing to scrapbook, but I wanted it to be part of my album because it was definitely a really intriguing part of the day. So kind of black and white drawings, and I'm going to go ahead and use the color scheme that I have in the kit. So for this sketch, I need 1 pattern paper that's going to be the majority of the background, and then another that's going to have about a 4-inch strip. So I had a look at what backgrounds I have left, and I wanted to use this one, which is quite neutral, a bit like a doily or a lace pattern. And then for the smaller piece, I'm going to use this red, gray, and cream from Studio Calico. And then I think to separate them, I wanted to bring in something that was blue, because I'm using lots of blue in that album just throughout. And so I'm going to use the little blue polka dot, which I used before, and that's by Pebbles. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble that background like that, and then I'll start building everything else on top. Now, for my background, I went ahead and just used this whole 12 by 12 sheet and then just covered up the 4-inch strip on this side. But if you wanted to make this into a double page layout, you could duplicate this, and I would just suggest using 2 spare pieces of cardstock that you're going to cover up, because you could cut this one, you could cut both the pattern on the large side and the pattern on the small side, and then just alternate it on the other facing page. So you'd have an 8-inch and a 4-inch piece of each one, and you could make the other one so your red would continue here, and then you'd have the cream at the far end again. So just a different way around it. In that case, you would need a background cardstock, but in this case, because I'm doing it as a single page, I've just put it on the back, or put it on that whole sheet and just attach it like that. Then for my matted 2 4x6 photos, I wanted something that would be a small pattern because I wanted it to be visible on the mat. So for example, if I used the back of this red pattern with the cameras, by the time I cut it to that small piece, it's not going to be obvious what it is. So the yellow polka dot was a good compromise, and that's the back of the October Afternoon floral print. Now I'm just going to use 1 mat with my 2 4x6 photos, but if you wanted to have more layering, more color, more pattern, just make more mats behind this, and then either make them all straight or make them into a bit of a messy stack if you prefer all the angles to be a little haphazard. So there's my starting point for this page, and then I have 3 areas of embellishment plus a place for the title and the journaling. So the journaling is going to start here and then carry on down here, so kind of this L-shaped corner piece here. The title above that, and then some embellishment here, here, and here. So 3 areas around the photograph. So at this point, I think I'll go ahead and figure out what embellishment I'm going to use and which lettering options will be the best match here, and see what I can come up with. I'm starting my title with the largest word, which I knew wasn't going to fit all in one row, so I just separated it out as if you would hyphenate it, but I don't think I'm going to add the hyphen. I think I'll just leave it like that, and then come up above that to add the smaller word in the title, and I placed this title up from the bottom edge of the photo so that the journaling can start here and then fill into this space. That gives me a little bit more room and also gives a bit of balance to the design so that everything doesn't block at this corner. Instead, the journaling will flow around the corner And that gives a little bit more fluidity to a design that's quite blocky. So something useful sometimes. To start my embellishment, I've stamped the documented stamp from the stamp set 3 different times on the blue paper in black ink, and just cut each of those out and put some pop dots on the back, and then just placing them in the 3 spots where the embellishment is on the sketch. And I want to have a little bit of contrasting color behind each of those, so I'm going to take some of the washi tape and just place it behind each of those, and then I can put the sticker right, or well, now it's a sticker, the paper right on top. And then I'm going to add a little bit to each of these, but this gives me a start to each of the embellishments, and I know I can build on top of that washi tape, and things will be balanced on top because the washi tape kind of gives it a placement on the page, especially when it's in a contrasting color like this. And then the one on the side, there's not enough room for it to be horizontal on the layout, this little stamped piece. So I'm just going to run it on the vertical rather than the horizontal. So then the arrows point around the box a bit. And when I add more embellishment to the one on the side, I just need to keep in mind that I want those elements to be quite small because I don't have a lot of room to work here, but I could have some that come off the page and just trim off the excess. In starting to build the embellishment, I chose 3 of the buttons from the button card. One's a chipboard in turquoise and one's a plain button in turquoise, and then a contrasting one. I chose the pearly peach one because I figured it was a sort of match to the gold lettering that would be opposite. So those were my 3 best from the buttons I had left. And then I want to add some paper layering to each of these. So I'm looking at the pieces that I have left over with elements that I could cut out, and I'm going to cut out 3 cameras and 3 of these flowers. And I know the flowers are perhaps a bit of a strange choice of motif for this page, but I have actually used quite a few floral papers in this album, so I don't think once they're all in there together, I don't think that it will be too out of character. And the nice thing about this kind of embellishment is I don't need 3 whole flowers because I'm going to tuck them underneath the edges. So I can use this tiny one here for the little piece on this side, and I can use these 2 and just arrange them so that the part that's cut off can be tucked underneath there and it won't be any trouble. And for the cameras, I'll just make sure that I choose the smallest camera possible for this side and see if I can make it work. So to add those layers to each of the embellishment area, I've just cut out the individual shapes and then gone back and pulled up the tape so that I can tuck this underneath, and then added the other paper layer on top. And sometimes it just takes moving them around a little bit if you're dealing with kind of incomplete pictures like this one where I've cut it from the edge of the paper. So move things around until I can get both of them to have the cut edges covered up. So they're overlapped, but those cut edges are covered. Stick that tape back down and then add buttons on top. And with the regular buttons, I just added enough adhesive to tack them in place until I can stitch them down. But this one is chipboard, so I can go ahead and peel off the background. And then I can come back to each of those and stitch them down. Now, I'm going to use something a little extra that's not in my kit, and that's some gold Color Shine Mist. I'm just going to shake that up. And then so that the gold from the lettering repeats a little bit, I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of the gold mist around each of these areas of embellishment. It's just a tiny little touch so that the coloring has a little bit more consistency with the title with all the other elements. But it's certainly not a requirement, so if you didn't have that handy, don't worry too much. would be fine without it as well. So I'm going to stitch my buttons down with a little bit of thread, and then I think with the same thread that I use with that, I'll add a couple little just plain stitches to the other side of that embellishment. And then I think that's pretty much everything done. And here's everything all finished. I added the stitching to the middle of the buttons and then 3 little cross stitches to each grouping, and then just added a tiny little bit of tape and some stickers and the date at the top, because on all of the pages for this album I've put a little HP somewhere in the design. So that's everything all done for this week's sketch, and I'd love for you to stop by, have a look at our guest interpretation, and then make one of your own and change it up however you would like and share it with us at the bottom of the post. I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks for watching.